VOLE is a sports social network. VOLE is the place to find all of your football talk, news and discussions. Now I'm going to show you guys how VOLE actually works. Now remember, the football icon on the bottom left corner of the screen, this is where all the community posts are showed, and whatever you post, everyone else who's part of the VOLE community can see what you've done. The magnifying glass tab beside that, this is the Discover tool, and this basically lets you know what's happening in the community and then find out something new that you wouldn't normally know. The camera icon tab beside that is the Share tool. Share any photos or videos to the community. The tab beside that is the Chat tab. Of course, enter and join the discussion. This is the tab you use to speak to anyone in the community. And of course, the person icon is your homepage. See the people you're following, see how many people are following you, check to see all your previous posts that you put out there. And of course, that's not the only thing. Anyone that downloads the app and follows me on VOLE has a chance to enter a draw for a free Chelsea home kit with a player's name of their choice. So remember you guys, go in the description below, download the VOLE app, create an account, follow me at Blue Lines TV and have a chance to enter the draw and become part of the VOLE community. Hello everyone, I'm the EFC and this is Blue Lines TV, and today I'm bringing a news daily video. Now there's a few stories to cover, but I thought I'd kick things off with talking about Eden Hazard. Now he was interviewed recently discussing his opinions and thoughts on how he felt not being in the Champions League last season, and he was even stating that he couldn't even watch it on TV. That's how disappointed he was. Now I'm trying to look behind the lines with what he's saying to really assess what picture he's trying to paint. Now I could get this wrong, and you guys are entitled to your opinions and you could have your own reasons behind what you think Hazard might be saying, but it kind of feels like maybe Hazard is putting a bit of pressure on the club with his thoughts and opinions on how, you know, he really wants to win the Champions League, and you know, he's won trophies in France and in England and cup competitions as well, and this is the big trophy that all big players want to leave. Now I'm thinking that maybe Hazard's putting early pressure on the club, and he's trying to say basically in the nicest way possible, if I feel like I can't achieve my ambition of winning the Champions League at Chelsea, I'll consider a move away. And I think that's a very, very scary thought, because like I keep saying, to me, Eden Hazard is the third best player in the world behind Messi and Ronaldo. I think the guy's a genius, and I feel that since he has been at Chelsea, in a way, he has had to play within himself at times, and that usually happens in quite a few of the big games, especially when we are defending deep and, you know, we have a tactical game plan against, you know, bigger opposition. And I feel that sometimes, you know, in just a pure footballing thought, if Hazard was playing for a Barcelona or Real Madrid, you'd probably see even better performances, because you'd constantly see Hazard doing the things he's best at on a more consistent basis. He'd be in positions where he's closer to the goal, he'd be able to affect the game more, he'd be able to really show his ability more often, especially with the support cast around him. And to me, Hazard's a guy that you want to touch the ball every single time, and of course it's good for him when he's at Chelsea to fight for the team. Obviously the manager's system and tactics is to do this. Of course Hazard has to follow what the manager says, that's what he's paid to do. But at the same time, in a personal point of view, maybe Hazard could feel that, you know, a few times now we've adopted this approach in Europe and it hasn't really worked for us at all. That game against Atletico Madrid, where Mourinho really had a go at him and basically tried to blame him for 2 of the goals, saying that he wasn't doing his job, he wasn't tracking back. Maybe Hazard's thinking, well, in my head, this really has to be a big season in Europe where we try and win the Champions League. Otherwise, if we don't, I might have to consider whether Chelsea are really the club to help me achieve that ambition, because he is 26 years old. By the end of the season, he will be 27 next year. And of course, you know, as I keep saying, when players reach an age where they're 27, 28, this is where things become a bit more scary, because they start to become a bit more selfish, because they realise, actually, you know what? I don't have long to go until my career is over. Yeah, I've made all the money now, but what's my trophy cabinet really saying? I want some of the big prizes. He's thinking, I want to be remembered as a great player. I need to have a Champions League trophy to really highlight and really show how great my career has been, and it's something I can look back at in years to come. And I don't know, I think that it's something we should definitely look out for. I'm really hoping we do well in Europe this season. If anything, I think the group stage we have is going to be a good litmus test to really get a good idea for how well we'll do further on in the competition. I look at some of the teams. Are Barcelona as strong as they used to be? I'm not too sure. Real Madrid, well, they are experts in the Champions League in recent history. Bayern Munich, are they exactly the same? I'm not too sure either. So I think we definitely do have an opportunity to do something in the Champions League this season. It just depends on, of course, the manager getting his tactics correct and the players performing on the night. But you guys, you know, even thinking about Hazard leaving is a scary thought. I don't want that to ever happen. But that's some of my thoughts and opinions on the article I read in regards to Hazard talking about the Champions League for this season. Now, moving on to another story, it looks like Charly Musonda could potentially be playing against Qarabag. Honestly, before I even get into this, I had a feeling he was going to be playing, especially when I saw that he wasn't even on the bench and he was playing with the under-23s. And to me, Conte probably said, you know what, Musonda, with Hazard coming back into the team, he is going to be playing later on. I do want him to get his match fitness. Of course, he's the best player at the club. I think Musonda accepted that, and I think that Conte promised him that he'll be playing against Qarabag in the Champions League, and I think that's why potentially Musonda wasn't in the team or the squad, and that's why he was told to play with the under-23. So, you know, obviously get the match fitness and be sharp for the game on Tuesday because it's not too far away. And it's going to be very exciting to see Charly Musonda playing. I'm looking forward to it. I think this guy, an elite trainer, you constantly see footage of him in the gym working out, practicing his long shots, his free kicks. You can see that he's definitely got bigger. There's this, you know, worry with Musonda in regards to him getting brushed off the ball, which, you know, you guys, we've seen the likes of Neymar, the likes of Mahrez and players of that ilk. It's not something you need to worry about. It's not. It'd be different if it was like a Pedro-esque scenario where Pedro, a slight bit of pressure and he's off the ball. With players of the likes of Musonda and that, they have the close control, their dribbling ability, and the low center of gravity to weave past. And most times when they are dispossessed of the ball, it's because they're hacked and fouled. It's not because they get brushed off. I think you have a fantastic game against Qarabag, and I'm hoping that Conte will see him as a more viable option because, I'm sorry, sometimes Willian and Pedro can be too inconsistent. I think Musonda really has a fighting chance of potentially trying to force himself into the first team. And I think if he takes this opportunity against Qarabag, good things will happen. Now, you guys, to end the News Daily video, I will be talking about, it's a bit of a side note, but I thought it was an interesting discussion. It came out earlier that Benjamin Mendy basically said that he was trying to force a move to Man City. He was saying that the board at Monaco were reluctant at first. They had no need to sell him. He kept persuading them and letting them say, you know what? If it was Chelsea coming for me, I'd reject and stay, but it's Man City, it's Pep Guardiola, please let me go. They received a world record fee for a defender, and he's a Man City player, and, you know, he's been fantastic for them since he's been playing that game against Liverpool especially. And it just made for an interesting discussion where it was kind of like, you know, this guy's one of the top left backs in the world. Even though he's had a bit of a short career so far, you can see his quality, it's immense. And quite often players of that ilk reject Chelsea all the time, and it gets me thinking, why aren't we seen as an attractive proposition for players to come and join the club? And I think it's a few things. I think we definitely don't market ourselves as well as we can. Now, bit of a side note, but it relates. I remember I read an article in 442 years ago. They were talking about the rise of Dortmund. They interviewed all the boards and owners there, like Watzke, I think his name is, and he was basically saying that, you know, that to really redefine and change the whole image of Dortmund, they had to let them, you know, what they were trying to create was that Dortmund were your second favorite team. It's like a, you know, a team for your family. They wanted to be the most loved team in Germany, and they bought specific players in terms of like what was the guy's name? Grosskreutz or something like that. I'm awful when it comes to pronunciation. Just because he embodied what the Dortmund board were trying to create at Dortmund. They wanted to have that type of, you know, gung-ho type of football that would attract people to support the club, attract people to like them, and attract a certain ilk of player. And I think Chelsea might have to do something similar, because too often when it comes down to players wanting to come to Chelsea, that's a stumbling block. People might think it's money. Honestly, with Chelsea, when it comes to coughing up the fees, we will. Similar to Alexandro, I feel that, like I keep saying, if we had paid the money earlier on, before Bonucci left, he would have come to Chelsea. But of course, it wasn't enough for Alex Sandro to really force himself out of the club. And I really think it's a combination of maybe it's the playing style. Conte is a fantastic manager, he's won so many trophies, he's experienced. But I think when it comes to attracting a certain ilk of player, he's never been that manager. But to be fair, you know, not every manager has the ability to really, you know, single-handedly bring in top players to the club. Most times players are going to the club, they're not going for the manager, not all the time. But I think obviously with Pep Guardiola, his philosophy, how he gets his teams to play football, the attacking philosophy as well, a lot of players want to play in that style and play that type of football. And I think this is why Pep finds it so much easier to attract certain types of players like that. For example, Bernardo Silva. I was told this deal took 5 hours to complete. It was literally Man City placing a massive bid, Bernardo Silva hearing about it, saying yes immediately, Monaco accepting it, and then he was flying off to Man City. And that was the day where Chelsea Twitter went into meltdown because the signing came out from nowhere. No one expected it, but that's what happens. And I think that at Chelsea, in the future, we have to slowly bring a philosophy. And what do I mean by that? Well, this was the same philosophy we had earlier on after we won the Champions League, where we were able to actually bring in the likes of Willian and Eden Hazard, who's one of our most important signings since Drogba, in my opinion. I really feel that if we tried to sign Eden Hazard today, would we be able to sign him? I don't think we would. And I think that's a shame. And I think that really tells you how players are seeing the club at this moment in time. So I really think in the future, it's an identity crisis that we really need to change. And if anything, I think the club needs to have a unified philosophy at the club. I think too often it comes down to, you know, Emanalo doing this, Marina bringing in this type of player, then the manager having his own ideas. And it's like, and don't forget the youth team as well. It's like 3-4 different identity crises, and it's like nothing's unified. It's not helping us long term, and there's too much friction. And this is why we sign the players like we do in this summer window. Even though we signed some good ones, let's be serious, we shouldn't be really bringing in some of the players that we did, so for some of the money that they did cost. And this is what happens. But anyway, you guys, I want to hear some of your thoughts and opinions on what I said about the club and us having a bit of an identity crisis. How do you feel about what I said? I want to hear in the comment section. Of course, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. You guys, that's going to end today's News Daily video. I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lines TV. Signing out.